Greetings. Welcome to our show, Ghosts Are Near, where we discuss various aspects of the paranormal and paranormal exploration. I am your host, Keith Johnson, also the founder of New England Anomalies Research. With me is my co-host, Sandra Johnson.
Hey, hello
co-founder
there.
of N.E.A.R.
I am that.
And alternate co-host, Carl Johnson, senior member of N.E.A.R.
Yes, I'm alternate. Good evening to you.
Well, we have a very special presentation for you tonight, dealing with H.P. Lovecraft and a tribute held in his honor. Carl, would you briefly set this up?
Very exciting.
Annually, I present a tribute to horror fiction writer, native of Providence, Rhode Island, H.P. Lovecraft, and this year its title was Lovecraft Rising, and it was conducted at Ladd Observatory on Hope Street in Providence, Rhode Island. Its title, Lovecraft Rising, and it took place on a Sunday afternoon, as they generally do, and it was quite a success. We had more than 100 people in attendance there. And we're going to be showing you some clips, some footage from that occasion.
And I can't wait to see it because I wasn't there.
Well, Sandra, you're in for a treat. So let's roll that.
Well, I have a personal comment first.
Yes.
I'm very happy that our technician, Laura Casey, also a member of N.E.A.R, is with us this evening because she met with a near mishap, to understate it, on 95 traveling north this evening on the way to this broadcast. So a driver in front of her cut 3 or 4 lanes over with no warning, missing her by about 2 inches. So if camera 1 is somewhat shaky tonight, there's a reason for it. Thank you, Laura. We're very glad to have you here, and we welcome our studio audience, as always.
We'll excuse the shaking tonight.
Right.
We're good with that.
Thank you so much, and thank
Good
God
to have you here,
everything's
Laura.
okay. Great. The gravestone of Mercy Lena Brown.
But too young to know the meaning of the exploding sky. All they did and dreamt for nothing. Out on the rim of the spiral arm, the one-eyed chroniclers, a race whose fortune it was to survive, built a vast dome and projected there the stars that had been. They sang and wept, struck gongs and sorrowful organ notes, as one by one they vanished again, like candles snuffed by a terrible hand. These things and more have come to my dreams now, and the certain knowledge, too, as the astronomers tell me, that the great Andromeda galaxy is heading towards us. It will come. It will come. It will come. Alu Marana Ecto Karani. All is destroyed, except memory.
And now Carl Johnson will sing a ballad of his own composition, in Shadow Cast. Give it a try. Some months ago, I found myself at the grave of H.P. Lovecraft 2 miles from the spot in Swan Point Cemetery, and I started to compose, which I suppose is infinitely preferable to decomposing, and this is what I came up with. Because there's an obelisk, and at a certain point of the day, around 3 p.m., the shadow is cast over H.P. Lovecraft's grave, and there is a cross and a crown inscribed on the Phillips Monument obelisk. In shadow cast by obelisk, bearing cross and crown, lies the caller of Cthulhu and author of renown. Those nightmare tales he wove for us perpetuate his fame. So here we gather to behold that stone which bears his name. It wasn't while he walked this earth he knew such grand acclaim. The efforts of a favorite few blew embers into flame. We owe a debt to HPL, his losses are our gain. And after we depart the sight his essence shall remain. We plumb his strange imaginings, some see what they implied. He dared embrace a simple truth that fainter hearts deny. The vilest of monstrosities are those we often find, lurking through dark labyrinths within the human mind. Shed not a tear for Howard's grave, for he is ever home. His spirit is not wandering, what need for it to roam? No strife, no strain disturbs his rest, not now nor ever will. In shadow cast by obelisk, our ne'er met friend lies still.
And I'd like to call forward Keith Johnson again for another song, appropriately entitled When I Am Dead. Not me personally.
When I am dead, and over me bright April shakes out her rain-drenched hair, though you should lean above me broken-hearted, I shall not care, I shall not care. Words that were not said, songs that were not sung, tears that were not shed, deeds that were not done. I was not, I was, I am not, I do not care. I shall have peace, as leafy trees are peaceful, when rain bends down the boughs. And I shall be more silent and cold-hearted than you are now, than you are now.
And now we shall have a recitation, another of Carl's compositions, called Will You Answer, by Mr. N.E.A.R.
Through sable skies, set me where your body lies. Freed are you from life's brief toils, sheltered by that cooling soil. If I call with verse and rhyme, will you answer one last time?
And now, an excerpt from HPL's The Hound, performed by John Luce.
It frightened away an abnormally large horde of bats which had been hovering curiously around it. I know not why I went hither, unless to pray, or to gibber out insane pleas and apologies to the calm white thing that lay within. But whatever my reason, I attacked the half-frozen sod with desperation, partly mine and partly that of a dominating will outside myself. Excavation was much easier than I expected, though at one point I encountered a queer interruption, when a lean vulture darted out of the cold sky and pecked frantically at the grave earth, until I killed him with a blow from my spade. Finally, I reached the rotting oblong box and removed the damp nitrous cover. This is the last rational act I ever performed. For crouched within that century coffin, embraced by a close-packed nightmare retinue of huge, sinewy, sleeping bats, was the bony thing my friend and I had robbed. Not clean and placid as we had seen it then, but covered with caked blood and shreds of alien flesh and hair, and leering sentiently at me with phosphorescent sockets and sharp and sanguine fangs, yawning twistedly in mockery of my inevitable doom. And when it gave from those grinning jaws a deep, sardonic bay as some gigantic hound, and I saw that it held in its gory, filthy claw the lost and faithful amulet of green jade. I merely screamed and ran away idiotically, and my scream soon dissolving into peals of hysterical laughter. Madness rides the star wind. Claws and teeth sharpened on centuries of corpses, dripping death straight a bacchanal of bats from night-black ruins and buried temples of Belial. Now as the baying of that dead, fleshless monstrosity grows louder and louder, and the stealthy whirring and flapping of those accursed web wings circles closer and closer, I shall seek within my revolver the oblivion which is the only refuge from the unnamed and the unnameable.
Anyone have a trank
Come down now. Come down. He's fighting somebody.
Well, while Mr. Los is being darted and tagged, we'll move on to our next performance, which I will assist Carl with. An excerpt from The Statement of Randolph Carter. I repeat to you, gentlemen, that your inquisition is fruitless. Detain me here forever, if you will. Confine or execute me if you must have a victim to propitiate the illusion you call justice. But I can say no more than I have said already. Everything that I can remember, I have told you with perfect candor. Nothing has been distorted or concealed, and if anything remains vague, it is only because of the dark cloud which has come over my mind. That cloud and the nebulous nature of the horrors which brought me upon me. Again, I say, I do not know what has become of Harley Warren, though I think, I almost hope, that he is in peaceful oblivion, if there be anywhere so blessed a thing. The removal of the slab had revealed a black aperture, from which rushed an effluviance of miasmal gases so nauseous that we started back in horror. After an interval, however, we approached the pit again, and found the exhalations less bearable.
I'm sorry to have to ask you to stay on the surface,
He said,
but it would be a crime to let anyone with your frail nerves go down there. You can't imagine, even from what you have read and from what I have told you, the things I shall have to see and do. It's fiendish work, Carter, and I doubt if any man without ironclad sensibilities could ever see it through and come up alive and sane. I don't wish to offend you, and heaven knows I'd be glad enough to have you down there with me. But the responsibility is in a certain sense mine, and I couldn't drag a bundle of nerves like you down to probably death or madness. I tell you, you can't imagine what the thing is really like. But I promise to keep you informed over the telephone of every move. You see, I've enough wire here to reach the center of the earth and back.
I can still hear, in memory, those coolly spoken words, and I can still remember my remonstrances. I seemed desperately anxious to accompany my friend into those sepulchral depths, yet he proved inflexibly obdurate. At one time, he threatened to abandon the expedition if I remained insistent, a threat which proved effective, since he alone held the key to the thing. All this I can still remember, though I no longer know what manner of thing we sought. After he obtained my reluctant acquiescence in his design, Warren picked up the reel of wire and adjusted the instruments. At his nod, I took one of the latter and seated myself upon an aged, discolored gravestone close by the newly uncovered aperture. Then he shook my hand, shouldered the coil of wire, and disappeared within that indescribable ossuary. For a minute, I kept sight of the glow of his lantern, and heard the rustle of the wire as he laid it down after him, but the glow soon disappeared abruptly. As if a turn in the stone staircase had been encountered, and the sound died away almost as quickly. I was alone, yet bound to the unknown depths by those magic strands whose insulated surface lay green beneath the struggling beams of that waning crescent moon. I consulted constantly my watch by the light of my electric lantern, and listened with feverish anxiety at the receiver of the telephone. but for more than a quarter of an hour heard nothing. Then, a faint clicking came from the instrument, and I called down to my friend in a tense voice. Apprehensive as I was nevertheless unprepared for the words which came up from that uncanny vault, in accents more alarmed and quivering than any I'd ever heard before from Harley Warren. He, who had so calmly left me a little while previously, now called from below in a shaky whisper more portentous than the loudest shriek.
God! If you could see what I am seeing!
I could not answer. Speechless, I could only wait. Then came the frenzied tones again.
Carter! It's terrible! Monstrous! Unbelievable!
This time my voice did not fail me, and I poured into the transmitter a flood of excited questions. Terrified, I continued to repeat, Warren, what is it? What is it? Once more came the voice of my friend, still hoarse with fear, and now apparently tinged with despair.
I can't tell you, Carter! It's too utterly beyond thought! I dare not tell you! No man could know it and live! Great God! I never dreamed of this!
Stillness again, save for my now incoherent torrent of shuddering inquiry. Then the voice of Warren in a pitch of wilder consternation.
Carter! For the love of God! Put back the slab and get out of this if you can! Quick! Leave everything else and make for the outside! It's your only chance! Do as I say, and don't ask me to explain!
I heard, yet was able only to repeat my frantic questions. Around me were the tombs and darkness and the shadows. Below me, some peril beyond the radius of the human imagination. But my friend was in greater danger than I, and through my fear I felt a vague resentment that he should deem me capable of deserting him under such circumstances. More clicking, and after a pause, a piteous cry came from Warren.
Beat it! For God's sakes! Put the slab back! And beat it!
Something in the boyish slang of my evidently stricken companion unleashed my faculties. I formed and shouted a resolution. Warren, brace up! I'm coming down! But at this offer, the tone of my auditor changed to a scream of utter despair.
Don't! You can't understand! It's too late! And my own fault! Put back the slab and run! There's nothing else you or anyone else can do now!
The tone changed again, this time acquiring a softer quality, as of hopeless resignation. Yet it remained tense through anxiety for me.
Quick! Before it's too late!
I tried not to heed him, tried to break through the paralysis which held me, and to fulfill my vow to rush down to his aid. But his next whisper found me still inert in the chains of stark horror.
Carter, hurry! It's no use! You must go! Better one than two! The slab!
A pause, more clicking, then the faint voice of Warren.
Nearly over now. Don't make it harder. Cover up those damned steps and run for your life. You're losing time. So long, Carter. Won't see you again.
Here Warren's whisper swelled into a cry that gradually rose to a shriek fraught with all the horror of the ages.
Curse these hellish things! Legions! My God! Beat it! Beat it! Beat it!
After that was silence. I know not how many interminable eons I sat stupefied, whispering, muttering, calling, screaming into that telephone. Over and over those eons I whispered and muttered, called, shouted, and screamed, Warren! Warren! Answer me! Are you there? And then there came to me the crowning horror of it all. The unbelievable, unthinkable, almost unmentionable thing. I have said that eons seemed to elapse after Warren shrieked forth his last despairing warning, and that only my cries now broke the hideous silence. But after a while, there was a further clicking in the receiver, and I strained my ears to listen. Again I cried down, Warren, are you there? And in answer, heard the thing which had brought this cloud over my mind. I do not try, gentlemen, to account for that thing, that voice, nor can I venture to describe in detail, since the first words took away my consciousness and created a mental blank which reaches to the time of my awakening in this hospital. Shall I say the voice was deep, hollow, gelatinous, remote, unearthly, inhuman, disembodied? What shall I say? It was the end of my experience, and this is the end of my story. I heard it, and knew no more. Heard it as I sat petrified in that unknown cemetery in the hollow, amidst the crumbling stones and the falling tombs, the rank vegetation and the miasmal vapors. Heard it well up from the innermost depths of that damnable open sepulchre as I watched amorphous necrophagous shadows dance beneath an accursed waning moon. And this is what it said.
You fool! Warren is dead!
And now we shall have a reading by Mr. Brett Rutherford of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven.
Oh, quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the Raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still if bird or devil, whether tempter sent, or whether tempest tossed me here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me, truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the Raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aden it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the Raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked upstarting, get thee back into the tempest and the night's plutonian shore. Leave no black bloom as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the Raven, nevermore. And the Raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul, from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor, shall be lifted never more.
And now, Mr. Tom D'Agostino would like to relay some connections between H.P. Lovecraft and Patchett's Dark Swamp.
This is a true story. H.P. Lovecraft searched for it, a monster that supposedly lived in Dark Swamp in the Durfee Hill area. Now, H.P. Lovecraft also said he never found Dark Swamp, but as I retrace his steps, we came to find out he was right in the middle of it at one point. And the tavern that he talks about is still in existence. If anyone would like to visit it, it is called the Tavern on Main Street, Patchett. This, well, we have never seen it, but the area is so dark that people still cannot go through it. It is in a swamp in the middle of 3 hills, and the road is almost totally impassable. But if one would want to venture, they would go down Willie Woodhead Road until it is impassable, and then penetrate the woods on foot. And if you come out, let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
And now, Andrew Lake would like to relate his experiences at the Ramtail Ruins, Boston.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Lake, and I am a ghost hunter. If you go to the small hamlet of Moosup Valley in Foster, they probably hang underneath its town sign a little quote from H.P. Lovecraft that said, "It haunted me in infancy." I could tell you of a tale hunting the ghost that lives, or haunts, I should say, Moosup Valley, but instead, I will tell you of my encounter with Rhode Island's only official haunt, the Ramtail Factory. The ghost has been identified as Peleg Walker, a businessman who lived beyond his means and unfortunately had to sell everything that he had, and all that was left for him was to take the position of night watchman at the Ramtail Factory. This humiliation could only last about 2 months, and after arguing with his in-laws, he had made the claim that the next time you take these keys from me, you'll take them from the pocket of a dead man. True to his word, in 1822, May 18th, they found him swinging from the bell rope of the factory, and they took the keys of the factory from his pocket. Shortly after burying him, he began to haunt the factory. It is said that the factory went out of business because nobody would work there. Slowly but surely, the factory fell into ruin to eventually be burned, and in the 19th century was put in the Rhode Island census as an official haunted area. In October of 2006, I decided to venture out into the Ramtail on a full moon night with a very good friend of mine. My friend is very much in the same vein as John Wayne. He's a very tough, rugged Irishman who calls himself an open-minded skeptic. Well, we went into the woods armed with cameras and everything that we would need on our ghost hunt. And as I went into the forest with him, I noticed that the woods was probably the most quiet and calm woods I've ever experienced. There was no breeze, there was no sound. And I kid you not, when we approached the site where one part of the factory used to exist, the ground and air glowed green. My open-minded skeptic friend didn't say anything. We both stood and stared in awe and walked away from it. As you get into the forest where...
Have it. And the tribute was a smashing success.
Oh, yes.
It was indeed. Sandra, would you please say a little about our contact info?
Oh, I will do that. I will do that indeed. As you know, we at N.E.A.R are available to research alleged hauntings or assist those of you who may be experiencing unusual phenomena in your home or place of business. We'd also like to hear from you. If you have a show suggestion or would like to be a guest on Ghosts or N.E.A.R, and our contact info is Ghosts or N.E.A.R. There we go, it's right there, ghostsor.N.E.A.R@cox.net. And if you contact us, we'll believe you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Carl, for organizing that splendid tribute.
Yes, I was the man with the hat and shades.
Well, we know who you were. Sandra, I'm sorry you weren't there.
Well, I feel like I was there now that I've watched the footage.
Well, I'll probably be doing something later in this year.
Yes.
So
And
I
actually,
Very impressive.
that's just an excerpt. You know, there was a lot more.
There was a whole lot more.
Unfortunately, that's all we have time for tonight, but that will give you a glimpse of what you will see when you attend one of these tributes.
Preview for next spring.
Very good. Well, I'd like to thank everyone and our studio audience. Thank you very much for being here and joining us tonight. I bet you felt like you were there, right, people? Great. Thank you so much. Until next time, please stay safe and please drive safe. Lives depend on it.
Yes, apparently, Laura. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
Good night.